First round of the NCAA Division III playoffs, checked off. The Cardinals beat Wabash 51-15, and up next, the perennial powerhouse, Mount Union. We'll get head coach Jeff Thorne on the show to talk about that. We'll also talk about the previous matchup with the Purple Raiders. All that and more next on the Red Zone.
The presenting sponsor of the Red Zone is Athletico, the preferred provider of physical therapy and athletic training for North Central College.
Welcome into the Red Zone, and head coach of the football team, Jeff Thorne, on the show for a really exciting matchup coming up. But first, we got to go backwards. And I know you're neck deep in the prep for this Mount Union game, but let's take the journey back to Wabash, because this is a school we talked about that you had some history with, and you guys wanted to avenge that loss in 2011, not for the current players, but for the alumni. How nice was it to get that 51-15 win?
It was great. You know, it's a program with a ton of tradition. We talked about that last week, and they're a really good football team, really big up front. They did some nice things in their run game against us that we had to make some adjustments at halftime too, but very, very excited to have that one behind us and to win in the way that we did.
That quarterback, Liam Thompson, I mean, he was all that he was built up to be.
Yeah, he's going to be special. That's a freshman playing at that kind of level in the playoffs. So, you know, keep an eye on him for the next few years.
Reminds you of somebody else who started a playoff game as a freshman.
Yeah, we had a pretty good one.
Yeah, Broc Rutter, though, in this game, 17 of 19, very limited action, but that was because of the ground game. Let's talk about Ethan Greenfield.
Yeah.
I don't know what you could say about this guy. We've talked about him in such glowing terms the last few weeks, and he keeps elevating his game to new and new levels.
Yeah, it's really pretty amazing watching him continue to evolve as just a sophomore. Our offensive line is playing at an extremely high level right now, and at the end of the day, you're not running for 300 yards in a game without a great offensive line, and Ethan does his part by hitting the holes and then breaking tackles. It's been so much fun, like I said, watching him develop, and as a leader, he's using his voice more, you know, so it's really exciting what the future is going to hold for him.
You know, it's fun to watch what Ethan does, especially when he gets downfield, breaking tackles, making guys miss. But I think one of the more interesting aspects that I love watching is the offensive line pulling and getting out in space. And we've talked about this a lot. But their willingness to stick their nose in there down the field against guys who are more elusive and push that running game down the field. What is that like as a coaching staff, having those guys available to you? Yeah,
well, we've got a couple of guards that are really athletic in Sharmore and Ricky. So we like to get those guys out on the perimeter, watch them run a little bit, and that'll be important this week too. You know, just our offensive line playing at a high level. It's been fun. You know, we force teams like Mount Union will. You force teams to honor both the run and the pass, and that makes you hard to defend.
And then you talk about the passing game. Andrew Kaminsky, we kind of joked about this in the press conference post-game, the quietest 160 yards I've ever seen in my life. But what is it about him that maybe he's a sneaky contributor to the offense when the running game has the emphasis and Andrew still produces 150 yards? What does that say about kind of the dynamic in that offensive room?
You know, you have to account for a lot. There's a lot to worry about and deal with you know, being balanced on offense and having a great quarterback. And I feel like I'm talking about Mount Union as we're saying these things. We're very, very similar offensively. They've got some dynamic players on offense that are going to be a hard time to handle this week. But, you know, talking about our offense, it's just the same kind of thing. You know, defensively preparing for an offense that throws at you different running schemes, and you got some guys on the outside that can make plays, and a great quarterback, and then a running back like Ethan. It just it's a challenge defensively.
And then for you guys defensively in this game, Brian Beauchamp stepped up with 10 tackles, 3 for loss. We've talked about his leadership a lot this season. The production has seemingly ramped up as the end of the year came along, and now it seems like he's really hit his stride.
You see that a lot, I think, with seniors as the year progresses, because every game they know they're inching closer to that day when not going to have it anymore. So oftentimes you see seniors playing at a higher level, playing with a different level of resolve, so to speak, knowing that I don't want to regret anything when it's all said and done. So take regret off the table with how you prepare and how hard you play, and you're seeing that with Brian.
Two more guys I want to talk about on the defensive end. Jake Beasley, the interception, his third of the year, and Taha, 2 sacks. He takes over the team lead in sacks. How important are those two guys to try and make sure you keep another team off kilter?
Going to be pivotal, you know, on Saturday. You know, how well Jake plays in the secondary and our secondary in general. But certainly Taha's ability to get to the quarterback would be really important. He's explosive, and it was great to see him have some success on Saturday getting to the quarterback twice.
All right, well, we'll close the book on this game in just a moment. We'll check the tape, and then we'll get to Mount Union. But we're going to take a break. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Arena Americas, specialists in providing full-service rental solutions for events and special occasions of all sizes.
Welcome back, and now it's time to check the tape. And Coach, first one I want to get to is Ethan Greenfield. We had our choice again.
Yeah.
We've had this a few times this year. But the one that really sticks him out of my mind is he dragged the defender. A defensive back jumped on his back. And Ethan acted as if he wasn't even fazed by it. He went 15 more yards. It's kind of indicative of the kind of runner he is, isn't it?
That's the weight room. You know, that's the great equalizer is the weight room. And when you embrace it and when you work hard in the weight room, suddenly it translates to being a better football player. It's funny how that works, you know. Some guys you have to convince to get in the weight room. Others just embrace it, and that's Ethan.
Jake Beasley, we talked about him briefly in the first segment, gets that interception. And for Jake, using that length, that explosiveness, I'm sure that's nice to see.
Fantastic to see. You know, he's had a really good year, but he's had some situations, you know, in man coverage at times where he's been frustrated. Just go back to the Milliken game. He got called a few times for pass interference. I know he was frustrated. We were frustrated. I don't think they all were, but he had an opportunity to make a play, and he almost tight-roped that thing all the way down the sideline and scored. So it was exciting to see. That was a big play for us.
And then Taha, he had those 2 sacks. I want to get that first one because he has an interesting combination of the ability to get a bull rush in, but also that speed component that helps him get to the quarterback.
Right. Taha is a little undersized for, you know, your typical defensive end, but he makes up for that with his lower body strength and the explosiveness coming off that edge. So he was able to take advantage of that. Used the bull rush the first time, and I think beat him with speed the second time.
Yeah. All right, you ready, Mount Union?
I'm ready.
I know you guys have been watching the film. You guys have been preparing the whole week. One of the most interesting things that I've already read is you guys are number 1 in total yardage, number 2 in scoring. They're number 2 in total yardage, number 1 in scoring. I know you're very well versed in this at this point. You talked about the similarities in that first segment.
Yeah.
Does that help or hurt when you prepare for a team that is as similar as you guys? Because you know what it takes to get to that level, but it's also going to be really hard to stop them.
You know, it helps because our defense has seen that type of offense before. But the reality is they're so wildly talented and there's so much speed they've got on the field that it's going to be hard, you know, to really replicate that with our scout offense and scout defense. So we're working as hard as we can to get them prepared with what they're going to see, but it's really hard to prepare them for the speed that they're going to see. That's going to be an in-game adjustment where the guys are going to have to understand, wow, this is moving pretty fast. They're a talented team, but they're extremely well coached on top of it. You know, I don't want to minimize what that coaching staff has done. Year in and year out, they're one of the best tackling teams you're ever going to see. Schematically, they're sound, and they do some really good things. There's a reason that they've been to the semifinals 21, 22 years in a row. So we've got our work cut out for us. It's like I said last week after the game, it's an awesome opportunity. Our guys are excited about it. Our coaches are excited about it. We can't wait to get out there and play the game.
You got a quarterback on that other side of the field that has the pedigree that almost, you know, Broc Rutter has as well. He's been starting for almost 4 years. Do you ever pop your head into the defensive coaching room and say, you know, all right, let me kind of help you guys get in the head of this quarterback because I kind of seen it before?
Yeah, I mean, as a head coach, I'm watching both sides of the ball, and I want to know what they're doing, and that's how I can tell you how similar the offenses are in some ways. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. He's big, he's strong, he runs well, he throws everything at you. So, again, we've got our hands full on both sides of the ball, but defensively in particular, that offense is really dynamic. Playmakers all over the place, and you know, receiver that's likely going to get drafted. So, big challenge. But that's why you coach. It's why you play. You want to measure yourself against, the best that's out there. So we can't wait.
You guys played against an NFL quarterback, I think this is 5 years ago now, in Wesley, Joe Callahan.
Yeah.
How many similarities do you feel there?
I think there's, in terms of how they throw the ball and extend plays, for sure.
Yeah.
I think D'Angelo Fulford, Mount Union's quarterback, might be a little bit faster than what Callahan was. Callahan was just so strong; it was hard to get him to the ground, and was a great player in his own right. So, yeah, there are similarities for sure.
Interesting. How hard is it going to be to not have flashbacks to 2013? Excuse me.
Not hard. It won't be hard at all. I mean, we'll get to the stadium, we'll see it, we'll be, oh yeah, I remember being here. It was a pretty exciting game. Those memories are vivid still. It's had that great opportunity to move on that day. So to get a chance to go back there and play that team again is really exciting. And we're going to give everything we've got. We're going to play as hard as we can, and I know they will too. And at the end of the day, the best team will move on.
It's going to be easier without snow on the ground, I think. Probably.
Well, the forecast is saying that we might have something like that.
Oh,
sleet, rain, snow. Who knows? We'll be prepared for whatever. I know they will be too.
Have you guys shown the team the tape from 2013 and kind of try and rile them up that way, or is no need?
They've heard those stories before in recruiting and everything else. It's not something we need to go back and revisit because it really doesn't concern them.
Right.
This is a different team for Mount Union. It's certainly a different team for us, and we're just, like I said, excited for the opportunity to head out there.
I can't wait. We'll get you out of here on this. Thanksgiving takes kind of a backseat this year with Mount Union coming up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a nice day. You get to have a nice little time with the family. What is the worst side dish? We're going to go on the opposite side. Not what you're thankful for, not what you're looking forward to.
We're going to take the negative approach.
Yeah, what is the worst side dish that you can get for Thanksgiving?
Well, it's not even a question. It's cranberry sauce.
I agree.
don't even know why I don't know why it's served. Maybe it's just because it's that maroon color and it adds to the fall flavor, but it's never entered my mouth, nor will it. Yeah, I don't get it, but
so you don't know what it tastes like.
No, but
maybe you should give it a try.
Just the visual is all I need. That doesn't need to go in my mouth. Yeah, there's enough at Thanksgiving that I love. Why would I do that to myself?
Well, Coach, best of luck against Mount Union.
Thanks, Kevin.
Coming up next, we'll have a couple of guys joining me on set. We'll be right back for the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Jimmy John's.
It's time for this week's Play of the Game, and it's really the player of the game.
Hand off to Greenfield. That was a pretty generous play in the early going in the first drive, and it's going to be generous here too. My goodness, he dragged the defender for 15 yards.
Wow. Ethan Greenfield racks up 300 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns, eclipsing nearly every single game and single season rushing record in the process. And that's more than enough to claim the Red Zone's Play of the Game.
Welcome back into the show. Broc Rutter, Dakota Cremeens on the episode. And guys, big win against Wabash. That was a really fun win. Kind of an unorthodox win for you guys. The passing game really never, I know it's weird to say after 230 passing yards, 2 incompletions, a touchdown, but a quiet day throwing the football. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's playoff football. You got to be able to play defense and run the football, and we did both of those really well. So it was great to see Ethan get going in the offensive line, creating some huge holes for him, and it makes another area of our game that defenses have to prepare for and be able to stop with the pass game as well.
Ethan Greenfield, 300 rushing yards. We've talked a lot about your records being set, and I know you try not to pay attention to those. But let's get your opinion on all the ones Ethan set, because you got to be really proud of him.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him. Being a sophomore, he's a young guy, so these records are very, very impressive, and he's just a great guy. You get to know him. I've got to know him the past year and a half. He's a great guy, and he's a really, really hard worker. So it's great to see the results paying off for him, and it couldn't happen to a better person than Ethan.
Seems very humble too, which is
very
awesome.
humble, and he'll be the last one to tell you about his records, but we like to give him a hard time in the locker room, tell him his head's getting a little too big, and he stays humble right away and gives all the credit away from himself.
Well, how about accolades? First team all-conference on defense. This is your first year on defense. That's got to be pretty cool to know.
Yeah, it was exciting. Just like transitioning to defense. I never played in high school, so first week in spring ball I got moved over, and it was hard at first, but then all the guys helped me, get into the role of things, and kind of work into a leadership role, which I liked, and so I guess it just clicked for me. I guess I don't know.
Well, you got somebody else back there, Jake Beasley, also first team. Braden very well could have been And then you got on the other side that kind of rotation of cornerbacks. But it's a really fun unit, a very diverse unit as far as skill sets go and experience goes. What's your experience like with that group?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm close with all of them, so it really makes like practice and then transitioning to games like really easy. We're not afraid to get on each other about messing up and holding each other accountable, which is really awesome. And so that just helps us on game day even more. Yeah.
Last time we talked about the normal boys for that feature. You guys are playing pretty well, all of you guys. Ben has had a terrific year as well.
Yeah.
What can you say about that guy who's just the production level's off the chart?
I mean, I think he's only played in now 9 games, so like 2 games less than all the games he could have played in, and he's still leading the team in tackles by like 15 to 20 tackles. So I mean, that just speaks for itself right there. He's an animal. He works hard. He already worked out today on an off day. I just saw him before this, so I know he's getting after it every day. So he really works hard for everything he's earned.
Wow, and you guys can both speak to this. Brian Beauchamp, I feel like, and maybe it's just from the outside looking in, but I think this is true. Kind of the heart and soul as far as leadership goes on the defense, being vocal, being kind of the rah-rah guy. How valuable is it to have that kind of guy on the team? Either one of you can jump in.
I think it's huge to have as a team leader who's very vocal like that, because we have some other leaders who lead by example, and Brian's a very vocal guy, and it's been nice to see. I've been here with him for 4 years, and he's always been a leader, but his leadership this year has taken a step to the next level, and he's done a great job for not only our defense, but the entire team.
You see that too on defense?
Yeah, just seeing his story. I know he's kind of taken a backseat his first 3 years here, and got a little playing time last year, but really stepping in that starting role and leadership role this year, and just watching him like flourish as a player and a guy in general has been really beneficial for us.
All right, so we got Mount Union coming up. Wabash was a good team. Mount Union's going to be a great team. I know you guys are trying to prepare as normal as possible, but is that easier said than done when you have the Purple Raiders coming up next on the schedule?
Yeah, especially with no class this week. It's hard not to dive into a little more film and study a little bit harder for your opponent, but you like to treat every opponent the same and treat it like a football game that it is, but we're beyond excited for the opportunity, and we're ready to go down there and play our hearts out and give it a run.
I know you're probably keen in on the defense, obviously, with what they're going to be doing. Have you taken a look at all about what the Purple Raiders quarterback, D'Angelo Fulford, brings to the table?
No, not really. I've basically just been watching the defense, but I know he's a great player. He's a great quarterback, and they got a lot of weapons around him. So we're excited for the challenge, and we, like I said earlier, we couldn't be more excited to head down there and give it a shot.
Now, I'm sure you're very familiar with what he brings to the table. Without giving away schematical things, what are you looking at with him?
I mean, I know the quarterback number 9 comes in sometimes too, for what reason I don't really know, but I know that the quarterback number 12, he's a couple-time All-American. The running back's a couple-time All-American. They got a couple All-American receivers, and that's just, that's all nice, but it all comes down to Saturday, who plays the hardest, pursuit, effort, all that stuff. And I know our coaches put together an amazing game plan, so if we do everything we're supposed to do, and good eye discipline, no deep plays, I think we're going to be fine. You
guys have been tested pretty hard the last 2 weeks. Is it nice to have those tests leading up to a game against a team like Mount Union?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you can't get game-like reps against your scout team and offense as much as you'd like to, but I know we had a rough time against Milliken, probably a little bit more rough than we should have. So that's good to be put in kind of those stressful situations. Yeah. And then coming into Wabash, we knew that they were like a heavy run offense, but also could try to beat you deep, and they did a couple times against us. So it's good to get in those situations and be in that environment, because we know it's going to be a dogfight Saturday.
God, I can't wait. I'm sure you guys are just itching to go in this game, right?
Yeah, we've been wanting an opportunity. I know since I've been here for the last 4 years to have a crack at the #1 team in the country, a team who's has as many accomplishments as they do. They're basically the standard of D3, so we're super excited to get this opportunity to go down there and show them what we got.
It's just a bummer that it has to happen in the second round, right?
Yeah.
But hey, you win, you move on, right?
Yep, got to beat them sometime.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you guys ready for the quick hits?
Yep.
All right, Dakota, we'll start with you. If not Illinois, where are you living?
I would probably say somewhere in a residential area of South Carolina, so it's not too touristy or something like that. It's nice and calm and quiet, and still a beachy vibe.
You want the coast?
I want the coast, yeah.
You like to surf? You like to do any of that stuff?
No, not talented enough to do that, but I lay on the beach all day long. Yes.
All right. See, that's my kind of vibe. Don't put me in the water. Definitely don't give me a surfboard. Brock, how about you?
Shoot, I would probably have to say California, somewhere in California on the beach. I love the warm weather and California is just a really relaxed state. I've been there on many vacations with my family and always seem to have a great time.
Do you guys not like each other because you just picked opposite coasts?
Yeah, I'm trying to get away from it.
I don't know what his problem is.
Both of you guys are going to warm areas. That's awesome. All right, so next one, Thanksgiving. Worst side dish. Brock, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with the dessert. I don't know how much that counts as a side dish, but it's kind of unpopular opinion. I'm not a big pie guy. I'll leave the pie for the rest of the family, let them have that.
How does that happen? I mean, pie is, there's so many kinds of pies.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big pie, cake kind of guy.
So what do you have for dessert? Ice cream?
Cookies, ice
Cookies,
cream.
okay.
Grandma's cookies, mother's cookies.
What about like a, I'm stuck on this, because what about like a cookie cake? Does that throw you through a loop?
I'll eat some cookie cake. I'm not going to lie, I'll eat some cookie cake.
Dakota, how about you?
I would say either, it depends on who makes it and how it's made, but either green bean casserole or stuffing. Sometimes it can be really good and I'm a big fan. Sometimes I'll just scoot it to the side of the plate and not touch it.
It's always really hard when you're around the table with the person who made the dish, and you see everything else is eaten off the plate except for that little sample on the side, and you're just like, I'm just full. I'm sorry. I had no more room. But pass the turkey. I just need a little bit more, please. Oh my God, it's very political around the Thanksgiving table. All right, so Dakota, you. What player are you most thankful for this year?
I would say having Bo Bryan Champ. That's what we call him. But Brian Beauchamp, in the locker room, he's a quirky guy, and so it's just a good atmosphere to have him around, and he makes things light and funny, but he also knows how to be serious and a great leader.
All right, yeah, nice. Brock, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with more than one guy. Offensive line, the whole unit as a whole, they're great. They do a great job protecting me and Ethan, and we got a little thing going every Thursday. They even invite me to their offensive line dinner. I feel honored to be invited to that. And
really?
Go there and have a feast with them every Thursday. So it's been a great time to be able to grow with them and got some great friends on there.
I can't imagine you put away as much food as they do.
I can't. Try to, can't.
Well, it's just the lack of pie in the menu.
Exactly.
Well, guys, good luck against Mount Union. I can't wait for this game, and gosh, hopefully we got a win coming back next week.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next, we'll go to the Cardinal Corner. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is sponsored by Belgio's Catering.
All right, we've got to recap North Central versus Mount Union, circa 2013 and preview 2019, and we've only got a minute, so let's go ahead and do this. Snow, shovels, plows, points. Lots and lots of points. The semifinal game at Alliance, Ohio in 2013 became an instant classic with 6 lead changes, the final one coming with just a minute 7 on the clock. Pete Sorensen made it onto the SportsCenter top 10, but the Purple Raiders prevail 41-40. Okay, now 2019. Broc Rutter, the nation's second most efficient passer behind, only that guy, Mount Union's D'Angelo Fulford. Cardinals are number 1 in total offense, MU 2. Mount Union number 1 in scoring offense, NCC, you guessed it, 2. The question shouldn't be which offense will be better, rather whose defense can get that big stop. And who knows, maybe another 6 lead changes will be in the cards.
And we're back to close out the show. Clark Tusher, Sports Information Director on the show, and there's a lot to get to. Men's and women's basketball. Last night, well actually 2 nights ago, pretty disappointing result, but the games were really fascinating against Benedictine. Obviously the local rival aspect of that, but both teams really would have liked to have come out with the wins there.
Yeah, both teams kind of had frustrating kind of efforts offensively. In both games kind of played out the same way. They were close at halftime and then kind of got away in the first few minutes of the second half. So definitely not the outcome you would like to see in an annual game against a team that's just 2 miles from your campus, but I think on the women's side in particular, they're still trying to figure out who they are on the offensive end. Trying to figure out who are going to be those players in crunch time that you're going to rely on and try to get shots for. So I think they're still trying to figure some of that out. Now, the men's team was coming off a game just the previous night where they, seemed like everything they put up went in from the outside, and then it was the complete opposite on Tuesday night, and then really struggled with shots that are really routine shots that come out of the flow of their offense. And still were in it right there at the end, if not for a couple of ill-timed turnovers late in the game, it might have been a different outcome. So, certainly something to learn from there. They've got an extended period of time on the road. The men's team's actually gone until early January, and this is the time of year when we tend to see them kind of come together as a group and really kind of figure things out. So we're looking forward to seeing them do that.
Yeah, it was a very odd game for that, especially the men's game, where usually when you're down, you're trailing, you can kind of figure out an area that needs to be talked about or improved. They were executing beautifully. The shots just happened to not be going down.
You know, if you get an open shot and it doesn't go in, I mean, there's nothing really you can do about that.
Yeah.
It's a shot that you practice, a shot that you try to get out of your offense, and it's wide open, and it just doesn't go. So sometimes nights are just like that.
So then let's move to men's just men's cross country at nationals, and man, just a little short of their 4th consecutive national title.
Yeah, and really, certainly that group, there's always a sense of being let down when they don't win a national title, which is kind of unfair to the 6 guys who had never even been in that position before. Yeah. But definitely, those guys got an education in terms of that meet is unlike any other meet that you go to all year long. People race differently. Strategy can be differently, even if you've run that course earlier in the season, which our team did. And so certainly they learned a little bit about how have teams establish position early in a race.
Yeah. That's
going to be really close like that. And they kind of got behind a little bit, came on really strong throughout the course of the race, certainly in the last mile. And wound up being a very close team competition, and then just came up a little short and finished second. So definitely a solid finish for so many new guys, and particularly one of our runners, Zach Chapman, improved 54 positions over the final mile of the race.
Whoa!
Which was the largest increase, they said, by any athlete in any division of the national championships, because all 3 divisions were held last weekend.
Wow!
Men's and women's. So definitely they were ready to go. It just one team was a little further ahead at the end.
Wow. Still a pretty special year, though. Last thing I want to get to, and this is a year and hopefully a special one that is continuing for the football team. A long drive out to Alliance, Ohio, but not one that they haven't taken before. I'm sure you remember that game in 2013 pretty well. How excited are you to get back out there and to see the Cardinals take on the Purple Raiders?
Well, Mount Union's a school that really goes to a lot of effort to make sure they put on a good game. I think we certainly saw that the last time we were there, playing in a driving snowstorm, and the athletic director, Larry Karras, who was their coach for a long time, was directing their baseball team in snow removal before, during, and after the game. And they really, really spare no effort in making sure that it's a first-class experience for both teams, and not just their own and their fans. So, from that perspective, I think people are really going to be pleased with what they see when they go over there, or if they watch it on the live stream. And we'll see, if the game lives up to the one we had before. That's a pretty high bar to hit, but it's something that certainly they're going to be trying to do.
Awesome. Well, we'll get you out of here on this Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Certainly.
What's your least favorite, or what's the worst side dish at your Thanksgiving meal?
Anything involving cheese.
Cheese, really?
Yeah, it just seems out of place, and some people try to do certain things with cheese. I've just not been a big fan of it when it comes to a Thanksgiving meal.
You're in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, and we had one of our former staff members who worked for the Green Bay Packers for a couple of years and is vegan, and I just asked her, like, you know where that is, right? They consider certain kinds of cheese vegan up there. So, but yeah, it's. I understand that might not be the most popular choice, but just for whatever reason, that's never quite sat well for a traditional Thanksgiving meal.
I'm trying to think of what menu items typically have cheese, and the only thing that comes to mind is my mom's green bean casserole has, I think, mozzarella in it.
That's a different recipe than I'm used to for that. So that's not
still a no-fly zone for you.
That's not what I've known to be the traditional green bean casserole recipe. But maybe that's just me.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll pull down the recipe at some point. But Clark, thanks for hopping on, and hopefully we get a win in Mount Union.
Certainly.
That's it for this episode of The Red Zone. The Cardinals head to Alliance, Ohio for the quarterfinals against Mount Union. We'll have the highlights after the game. Until next week, I'm Kevin Jackman saying so long on The Red Zone.